Hey, Brave Masters, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Jena Rodriguez, and I'm your transformational leadership mentor and strategist. And I am excited to reflect on the year 2019 with you. It has been a very transformative year for me, and lots of great things have happened, and a lot of growth, a lot of internal work, and even my dog agrees. That was BD. So I wanted to jump in and give you this kind of year in review session, just you and me, and give you 5 lessons that I've learned throughout this journey this year, to give you your own opportunity, not only reflect for yourself, what are your lessons learned, but also maybe these resonate with you. Maybe you want to look at one of them for yourself, or maybe you want to take one of them into the next year and go, what does this mean for me, and how can I kind of unfold it, unpack it for my own growth and expansion. And so I'm so committed to helping people raise their consciousness, right? To help them self-lead in a more radically brave way. And one of the things that I always remind you is that I'm the guinea pig. I'm here to do that first and for you and with you, and walk that talk, right? And so, like I said, this year has been very transformative, very lots of change, lots of growth, and I just boiled it down to 5 things that made the most sense for me, that made kind of made the cut, and I want to share those with you. So the very first thing I would say is that the number 1 lesson was surrender is the best productivity tool out there. and what I mean by that is a year ago, at about the same time last year, I was really at a kind of a rock bottom, or maybe it was the top of the mountain. I'm not sure. And it was time to get off the mountain because I had put myself into a place of hustle and busy and stress and push, and it was exhausting. I was worn out, basically. And so I consider it a very spiritual breakdown, or spiritual breakthrough for that matter. And surrender was the very first thing that came to me. And it took on a whole new meaning for me, because honestly, I was a control freak. I was, and I'm sure many of you can relate to that. If you find yourself like trying to figure it all out, trying to hurry it up, trying to push through things, trying to be certain of the outcome, right? Like, I got to know how this is going to play out. I have to have a plan, right? All of those things are, for me, it was a signal that I was in my controlness, my ego mind that's trying to control and create certainty and all that. And so surrender was the actual answer to all of that. And that looked like let go. That looked like, kind of wake up and be in the flow of the day. I have a to-do list. I have tasks to get done. I have initiatives and projects to start. But surrender is a beingness. It's a place of allowing the day to unfold with intention, if that makes sense. So it's one of those things that until you do it, until you practice on a daily basis, most likely you'll be falling back into the most familiar mode, and that is to try to control the outcome and try to get as much done and try to check off the list and be in that push mode instead of that flow mode. So surrender was the best productivity tool ever. It really allowed me to sit back and receive new information, new ideas, new concepts and things that I'm bringing to light for you, right? And for my clients. And so I highly recommend surrender, and finding that white space in your mind and in your approach to your daily life that then allows you to produce more. So that was really big. Number 2, stillness is the best clarity creator. And by the way, it reduces stress. So what that looked like is when I started surrendering, I was like, how do I calm myself down? How do I calm this ego mind of mine and this crazy, energy that I have about trying to fix things and trying to figure it all out and trying to control it all? And so stillness, which looks like meditation for me, was imperative. It was huge. And I actually started studying a lot of highly successful people, watching a lot of videos and interviews. And this was one of the primary threads that was in common with all of these highly successful individuals, is that they wake up in the morning and meditate. They get quiet, even if it's 5 minutes. Sometimes I would do 15, I would do 20, 30 minutes, just to get calm and quiet and out of resistance. And so with that, clarity shows up. So it's so funny that I think a lot of us are in search of clarity, right? We're out there trying to find it. And the truth is we already have it if we can get quiet enough and still enough to receive it, to hear it, to uncover it, and let it show up. And so with that stillness and with that meditation, I definitely started journaling, because so many ideas and downloads, as I call them, were coming to me. I couldn't keep up. So journaling was really important to capture all of that, and therefore reflect on what I had heard and implement those things that felt good and felt right, and created the clarity for myself. So one of the big things that became really, really clear is that it was time to move away from Houston, Texas, and which I hadn't lived. I'm born and raised there, but I started moving around as a child, and then came back 20 years ago. Well, the answer came to me January, almost a year ago, and the answer was move to California. So it felt right. It felt right, and it was clear, and of course it triggered all of the fears and everything that I had to deal with. But my family and I made that decision, and we moved ourselves to California in July, in the middle of the summer. So very big changes, amazing clarity, and it all became clear to me through the stillness and through the meditation. So I highly recommend that. Number 3, this is kind of my mantra now, and it reminds me that anything I don't have, or a goal I haven't reached, or an achievement I haven't made, is because of this. So what the mantra is this: everything external that I desire or undesire requires an internal resolve. And this has been huge for my consciousness. Like, staying conscious of this has helped me uncover and dive into whatever it is that I need to resolve internally, right? Whether it's a belief system, a conditioning, a limitation, an attachment, right? I talk a lot about attachments now. Anything that's kind of in our way is some form of attachment or resistance, which is the form of attachment. And so that internal resolution has to occur, and kind of clean those cobwebs out in order to attract and receive and have and be the things that we desire, or maybe we no longer want, right? So we become so attached and connected and anchored to the things that are in our lives sometimes, but they're no longer serving us. And so we have to do the internal work in order to undesire those things, right? Unhook from the things that we no longer want and no longer serve us. Number 4 is, if not now, when? So one of the things I teach people is how to identify and master the ego tricks that our ego mind, our false self, plays on us. And when then is a big one. When I have this, then I will do that. When I have enough money, then I will hire a coach. When I have enough money, then I'll go on vacation, right? Our mind is conditioned and practiced to make sure that things are controlled, right? And things are certain. So if I know when this is available or this has happened, then I will make something else happen, or then I'll have something, right? So it's that game that we play. And I played it really big when it came to moving to California. I was saying out loud, when I sell the house in Houston, then we can move. And it felt very out of alignment. It felt a lot of stress and a lot of like pressure. And I started to, be, really stressed out, panicky, worried about it. All of the fears, all of that started coming up. And so when I asked myself, if not now, when, right, it really starts to open my dialogue up. and then I'm starting to look at, well, yeah, why are we waiting, right? why is it that I have the win-then in place around the house selling in order to leave the Texas? And I clearly identified that it was about I wanted the money to make sense, right? The money was in place, then we could go. And so I caught myself and I said, not going to happen. This is not how we're going to do things. And I picked a date, and I asked my family. I was like, let's pick a date. Does this sound good? And sure enough, 1 month after I made that realization and worked through that internal resolve and the fears and the attachments and the stories that I was telling myself, then we were free to answer the question, if not now, when, right? And the answer was now. The answer was like, in 1 month, we're moving regardless. And sure enough, the house sold when it sold, and it sold a couple months after we moved, but we moved and things really started to open up. All of the ideas that we had and the people that we wanted to meet, and my daughter started high school, and all of the things that we really were desiring, we just needed to respond accordingly. And that was the question to ask. So really, really big thing. And I'm going to tell you actually here in just a minute how to find out the 14 ego tricks and how to process through that internal resolve that I've mentioned. And I'm going to give you a free access to that. So stay tuned. Now, the final lesson, I mean, there was many more, but I'm going to give you 5 today. The 5th lesson that I'm going to share with you was a very big question, and it sounds very simple, and yet I wasn't actually asking and responding to it clearly. And again, the stillness and the surrender and all of the other lessons learned really did help me get to this place. But the question was this: what do I really want? What do I really want, right? What does Jena want? And that was a game changer. And it came with some truth. It came with some confession. It came with some commitment to things that I wanted, but maybe wasn't popular to other people. And it was, so it brought up the things that I needed to look at, that I needed to detach from in order for me to have what I really wanted, right? So it's a very powerful question. If you really were to sit down and ask that question of yourself, I would love to know what the answers are, because I would gather there's some areas in your life, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in money, your career, your business, whatever it is, your location of residence, right? Whatever it is, that there's something you really want, there's something you really want to change, and you're not really asking yourself or giving yourself the permission to ask or to look at it or to want it in the first place. And so when I asked, what do I really want? There were some things that shifted in my business, and you're starting to hear those dialogues now. It shifted, obviously, the location of residence. Like, I want the ocean. I want to live on the West Coast now, and I want to like freshen the world up here. I want to shift things, shift the energy, right? And just all kinds of little nuances came to the surface that I was able to take ownership of, give myself permission to have, and then move forward with it. And it can be as simple as, what do I want to eat today? What do I want to do today? Like, what is it, right? And be in the flow, be in the surrender. And it's a very powerful guiding question, especially if you do it on a daily basis. And the trick is, right, is to discern the difference between the ego mind and the higher self mind, which I call the true north. So when you can hear your true north and it's guiding you in the right direction at all times, it's always guiding you, but you might not be able to hear it, and you might not be giving yourself permission to be with it, because the ego is trying to keep you safe, certain, and protected. And that is the job of our reptilian part of our brain that keeps us in that place. And we've given it way too much power. And so my biggest lesson this year clearly has been to outsmart my ego and to do the internal work, like I said, and that internal resolve, to ask the right questions, to listen to the answers, to be willing to have the hard conversations. There were some really hard conversations. There was a business partnership that I ended because it wasn't right for me. It wasn't really what I wanted anymore. There's obviously the change in location because that wasn't right for me anymore. There were so many different things, and I kind of blew up my world a little bit, but in such a powerful, good way. Like, why not now, right? If not now, when? So all of these lessons really tied together, and I'm ending this year in a really good place, really present to the shift, and the brave and the radical brave things that we did this year, that we chose to take action on, and I'm moving into the next year in a very anticipatory, open space. And my word for the year is miraculous. And what that means for me is that I'm committed to being present to all things are miracles, and really lean into the miraculous life that I have, and the world that we live in, and the availability of so much abundance and goodness and positivity and possibility. And so I encourage you to kind of, I know that's a common thing now. Everybody's like, pick the word for the year, but I think it's a great guiding light, and a beacon of light that can kind of just envelop the year for you. And feel free to choose some goals. Feel free to identify the things that you desire, but recognize that anything that you don't currently have that you say you want, it requires that internal resolve. And so, speaking of, I'd love to give you a complimentary copy of my detachment method and my ego tricks. And I want to gift that to you at this point, so that you too can raise your consciousness, increase your self-leadership, do the internal work, so that you can have the things that you desire and undesire, really, right? Get rid of those things that no longer serve you. Find the stillness, find the surrender, and really start asking the bigger questions that are going to guide you to those big things that you want and desire. All right. So how do you get that, right? It's very simple. Go to bravemasters.com/the method. METHOD, right? The method. The detachment method is what you will download. It's a worksheet. And bonus inside of that are the 14 ego tricks, which will help you self-identify the things that keep you small, that keep you limited, that keep you safe when you really don't need to be safe, right? That it's an illusion that we live in. And so I consider this list and this document, this PDF worksheet, an illusion disruption, right? It's a place where you can get yourself incongruent, get congruency around what you want and what you're doing and how you're being, so that things line up. And so that's my intention for you, is to live a life and a year ahead, in alignment, in flow, in a higher level of consciousness and self-awareness, so that you can truly be the radical, brave master that you are. So that's my gift to you. Would love to know your comments and your thoughts. Please review us on iTunes. Please check us out on my YouTube channel, Jena Rodriguez. That's where I am. And leave some comments. Give us some feedback. Let me know what your lessons are for the year, or at least just share with me what one lesson that I've shared today really resonates with you, and maybe you'll take that into consideration going into the new year. All right, we will see you soon. I can't wait to be with you and share with you some amazing guests coming up. They are already in the queue, and I'm just really excited to hit 2020 in a more powerful, productive, surrender kind of way, and get more done, have more blessings, and an amazing year to come. I love you, and thank you so much for being a part of my community. I'll talk to you soon. Oh, by the way, let's go get our brave on. I forgot. That's what I end this call with. All right.